kidding me?
In this video, we're going to take a look at the secret life of one of the highest paid daytime TV personalities, Dr. Phil. When the father of tough love and straight talk, Dr. Phil, first walked on our screens in 2002, daytime TV viewers were hooked. After each episode's on-screen counselling session, no doubt a little bit of crying and of course a sparkle of drama, the family man would dutifully end the show and walk off hand in hand with his supportive wife, Robin McGraw. With 2 successful sons, a popular TV show and a loving wife, it seemed like Dr. Phil had it all. But getting to the top of the TV ratings and staying there comes with its own set of rules. And sometimes, as we'll get to shortly, rules can be broken and morals can be abandoned, all in the name of fame, money and ratings. From controversial opinions and giving unqualified medical assessments to scathing accusations from his ex-wife and even multiple lawsuits, it seems there's more to the Dr. Phil story than first meets the eye. Let's dive in. Dr. Phil has built his career on the fact that he's a doctor. I mean, it's what builds trust with his viewers and his guests, the degree in psychology that he holds. Except, he's no longer a licensed psychologist. He was one, but that was a long time ago. The popular host graduated with an MA in experimental psychology in 1976 and then a further degree in clinical psychology in 1979 from the University of North Texas. In fact, his PhD advisor, Dr. Frank Lewis, is still to this day a primary contributor on the show. So if Dr. Phil had all of these qualifications, what happened? He spent all these years working and studying so hard, what possible reason could he have for letting that go?
What are you hiding?
Well, the truth is, he has 280 million reasons, which is his estimated net worth. The good doctor voluntarily surrendered his license in 2006. Psychologists have incredibly strict rules to practice by, including regularly updating their licenses, which are based on attending or doing courses to stay up to date with new research and abiding by certain confidentiality rules, and definitely not using their clients' issues for entertainment purposes, which is exactly what Dr. Phil does.
Do you see how this works?
This doesn't mean that Dr. Phil and his team don't genuinely try to help people, because with all of the interventions, the expensive rehab treatments, the follow-ups and even the financial assistance they provide, those are all very real and they do definitely help. But here's the thing, once your problems are aired on TV for the world to see, it's very hard to live normally again. And a lot of his guests end up exactly where they started, of course with a few exceptions.
If I give you this check to hit the reset button and start over,
I would go to school.
you would go to school.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that ain't happening.
Now, licensing is a big deal, and the fact that he's not a doctor might be shocking, but you know what's even more shocking? The multiple lawsuits that he's faced. Let me explain. It's fair to say that any long-running and popular show like the Dr. Phil show has its fair share of unhappy viewers. The difference with Dr. Phil, however, is that the lawsuits that he's faced are to do with not only failing on his duties, but also deliberately aggravating situations to create drama at the expense of someone's mental health. And those are red flags that seem to be flying way too high to ignore. For example, one lawsuit scandal that Dr. Phil faced came from a range of nutritional supplements that he
What are
linked
you
his
hiding?
name to. The products included power bars, meal replacement drinks, and vitamin packets. The Shape Up brand, as it was known, was a Texas startup that faced a Federal Trade Commission investigation after users refuted the claims and stated that the $120 per month supplements led to no weight loss whatsoever. It was settled out of court for a reported $10.5 million. Added to this are the many lawsuits that have been filed by vulnerable guests of the show, claiming irreparable damage was done to their mental health after appearing on the show and experiencing a complete lack of care from Dr. Phil and his team. For example, we've got Todd Herzog, who you might remember as being the winner of the popular reality TV show Survivor. Now, when Todd was invited on the Dr. Phil show to talk about his struggles with drug and alcohol addiction, he claims that in his dressing room was a strategically placed bottle of vodka alongside Xanax pills, waiting for him to take. Now, his accusation is that producers left them there knowing he wouldn't be able to resist, in order to make for a more shocking episode with guaranteed viewers. Todd even goes as far as to claim that he had to be carried onto the set as he was more than 3 times over the legal alcohol limit.
Todd, Dr. Phil.
Hi, I'm Todd.
Next thing you know, I'm being carried onto the stage because I can barely walk.
How drunk do you think you are right now?
An entire bottle.
Another lawsuit, this one filed by Leah Rothman, a former segment producer on the show, was settled out of court in 2015. She claims that Dr. Phil locked her in a room during a meeting and yelled profanities at her and other employees for, quote, leaking information to the press. So when you've got guests of the show as well as producers of the show both making damning accusations, it starts to ring alarm bells.
Who the do you think you are?
No, whoa. No. You need to stop right there.
Aside from the lawsuits, Dr. Phil has also done a number of things that have left viewers questioning his true intentions and questioning his moral compass. For example, back in 1988, the Texas State Board of Examiners of Psychologists conducted an investigation into Dr. Phil after a report came through that he'd hired a former patient. Now, in case you're not familiar with this, in the psychology world, this is a big no-no. Unless you properly terminate therapy with a patient, you're not allowed to hire that patient for employment purposes. Now, of course, Dr. Phil went on to say that he was merely trying to help the patient find a job. And while that was all well and good, there were also rumours of inappropriate contact by Dr. Phil, although I must stress, no action was taken any further. However, the following year, in 1989, he was again brought up on ethics charges to exactly the same board of examiners, this time for having an inappropriate but non-sexual relationship with a patient. And then we've got the whole Britney Spears issue. So, dating back to a number of years now, Britney Spears has had a lot of questions asked about her mental health. Back in 2008, when Britney was going through a very tough time, Dr. Phil weighed in on the situation, and although he came across as an authoritative voice regarding her condition, he was actually just jumping on the bandwagon, and in doing so, violating a ton of patient-doctor privacy rules. Let me explain. You see, the whole controversial incident started when Dr. Phil went to visit Britney Spears in hospital. Now, immediately after seeing her, he released a statement to the press about Britney's condition while he was still on hospital grounds, which was a violation of her privacy rights under the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act.
It was there that Britney got a visit from Dr. Phil McGraw, who reached out to her, he says, at the request of the Spears family. But did he go too far by issuing the following statement?
And you might think to yourself, well, okay, a doctor giving an update to the press about the status of his patient isn't necessarily the worst thing in the world. But here's the thing, Britney wasn't even his patient. He'd never even treated her before, let alone be in a position to give press updates on the grounds of the hospital, as though he's the authoritative voice of her condition.
My meeting with Britney and some of her family members in her room at Cedars leaves me convinced more than ever that she's in dire need of both medical and psychological intervention. I am very concerned for her.
And understandably, a lot of his critics claimed that this was just Dr. Phil jumping on the bandwagon in order to increase media attention on himself. Speaking of which, let's talk about Dr. Phil's divorce. So Debbie Higgins McCall and Dr. Phil McGraw were high school sweethearts who got married in 1970 when they were both just 20 years old. She said in divorce proceedings that he was domineering, he limited her to only performing domestic duties, and he wouldn't allow her to work in her own family business. He even told her to apparently start losing weight in order to improve her figure. The couple divorced in 1973, just 3 years after their marriage. Now, sadly, as Debbie passed away from cancer in 2014, it's difficult to verify any of her accusations, and she maintained a low profile as Dr. Phil's fame continued its meteoric rise. He's been married to his second wife, Robin McGraw, since 1976. Fast forward 40 years later and the couple are still going strong, but so too are the controversies surrounding him. Earlier this year, Dr. Phil came under attack for his uneducated coronavirus claims. Let me explain. Now, given that Dr. Phil is no longer a licensed psychologist, nor is he a medical professional, the fact that he went onto Fox News and questioned the need for social distancing caused a massive uproar. At the time, he said, quote,
The fact of the matter is, we have people dying. 45,000 people a year die from automobile accidents, 480,000 from cigarettes, 360,000 a year from swimming pools, but we don't shut the country down for that.
What he failed to mention is that automobile accidents, cigarettes, or even swimming pool deaths aren't contagious, unlike the coronavirus. Also, he vastly overshot the number of swimming pool deaths at 360,000 yearly. That's not even close.
Oh, thanks, not a medical doctor, Phil. A quick thing there, though. The annual US death toll from swimming pools isn't actually 360,000. The total number of drownings, period, is around 4,000.
Dr. Phil claims that he misspoke while he was quoting the worldwide numbers. All of this was happening right at the height of the pandemic uncertainty, and real doctors called on Dr. Phil to rethink his statements as the influence he has over his viewers is massive, so spreading false information was doing nobody any good. Again, this gave critics the opportunity to say that Dr. Phil was not a credible source of medical information, and he was just putting fame and money over actual safety. But despite all of the skeletons in his closet, the Dr. Phil juggernaut shows no signs of slowing down anytime soon. His show is still hugely successful, his guests still draw in the ratings, and as long as the show continues, so too will the drama. If you like this video, definitely check out The Secret Life of Judge Judy as well. You're in for a surprise. Thanks for watching, catch you on the next video.